comic review is covering Little Monster issue 7 by Jeff Lemire. And starting off with first things first, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something inside with the story? Sure enough it does, to which I give it a straight 8 out of 10. I'll now move into the internal art, which we'll have a look around the beginning, middle and end in relation to the story and what's happened. So let's get started. And I must admit, this art has really been growing on me as along with what's happening with the story. And as we start to see here, we start to see, I think it's Billy and Lucas. And Billy goes out to fix up something for Lucas. And we learn that this is actually taking place in the past. I'll now move to another section of the story. And we get a bit of a mix here between how it presently is, or how it was in the story, to how it presently is. And this is really interesting as to how the time difference is being addressed in it, where in the previous issues we did get certain dates and years, and I thought that was really good. And now we're seeing a bit of a comparison between like some of the things that happened in the past, but we're not getting exact dates as when they happened in the past. And we see the character of, I think it's Romy here. No, still Lucas and Billy and what's happening there. And last but not least, moving towards the end, to which whoever is alive out of these, well, little vampires of sorts, until eventually they end up heading to a bit of a crypt. So for the internal art, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Moving into the story, first things first, how are things addressed in the story this time around? Now, in this time around, it really addressed the story, or the area of time in this way: how it was, how it is, and how it's meant to be. So in it, we learn a little bit more around of sort of like Romy's connection to the person who made all of these people somewhat young vampires. And not only that, also the people that he's sort of like been connected to what they're like in the present and how things might need to turn out at the end. Moving into the area of location, we end up coming across a bit of an old church. That's about the only thing that was managed to be made out in this. Moving into the cast of characters, we had Billy, Lucas, Yui, Ronnie and Raymond, and of course, Romy. For the overall story rating in this, I gave a 7.5 out of 10. I'm still enjoying this story, and I look forward to seeing how the next upcoming issue actually comes around. So hopefully in the future, I'll still be reviewing, well, good indie comics, unless things change and I won't be reviewing indie comics at all. But until then, only time will tell. I'm sick of the Starro invasion that's happening here in Australia. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day. I will be reviewing Jeff Lemire's Nugent's Little Monsters, issue 8. And let's jump into first things first. Does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that is happening inside of the story? Sure enough, it does, to which I give a 7 out of 10. It's now time to move into the internal art, as well as some of the things that are happening internally with the story when they take place. So as we start to move into the beginning of the story, we get a bit of a blast to the past, and the year in this, as we look into the story, it is 1876. And we do get some more flashbacks, and we get to see what's happening with one of these characters. So the next thing is moving to around the middle. As we move to around the middle, we have the character of Ronnie, who has now been taken captive by, well, one of the normal humans. And of course, he's wanting to start the feast. And as things continue, we move a little bit more towards the end of the story. And as we start towards the end of the story, we start to somewhat learn a little bit more about Romy, to which she's actually called Romika. And I think that is very fitting, especially for sort of like his full name. And we start to see that, well, they're going to the very person that created them to be basically the little monsters or the vampires in this universe. But of course, where one thing's happening, there's also another. And we've got some people who want to kill them, as well as wanting to play a part in the destruction of either their past, present, and or future. So for the internal art, I give it a 7 out of 10. But you know what? This story has still been pretty interesting. I understand that some people have decided to drop off. That's their choice. So moving into the next thing, and that is the story rating. So first things first, did we get any references to any of the previous issues? No, we didn't. Did it really affect the story rating? Maybe a little bit. Next area is that of time. And as you saw in the early parts where I showed you in the story, we got a bit of a flashback to 1876 connected to one of the members that make up sort of like the main cast of characters. And of course, we had the reference to now, or the present, the location. It looks like it took place in London, but it wasn't very specific. It might have actually been somewhere else in Eastern Europe or in Europe. It would have been nice if it actually delivered that in the story to know where this was happening for this particular character. And the next thing is the cast of characters. Now, I managed to record down these sort of like new cast of characters connected to Avengers of Victoria, Clara, Louise, Mrs. Morris, or Mr. Morris, Ronnie, who has lost Raymond. We had Billy, Lucas, Yui, Laura, Vicky, and Bats. So for the overall rating, in a 7.5 out of 10. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day. By Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nugent. And first things first, does this cover in any way, shape, or form connect to something that's happening inside with the story? Sure enough, it does. To which it covers basically the some of the character of Bat past until we move into what is the present, but there is some slight things that need to be corrected in this story, and I think they probably forgot about it, but overall it's still been quite enjoyable. So first things first, yes, this cover gets a 7.5 out of 10. Now it's time to move to original art, to which we'll have a look around the beginning, middle, and of course the end. And as the story begins, we actually get to see something in relation to one of the characters, which is known as Bats. And I'll just show some footage throughout the story. And we learn that it takes place in England, and the year is 1979 in regards to the past, which is really quite interesting. We do get to meet up with some of the other characters. Now, it comes off as quite clear that some of this is actually taking place in that time frame of 1979. And we end up catching up with Ronnie and Raymond. And of course, the other ones, Yui, Bats, of course, plus many others. We also get the return of Romy. Then we move into what is happening in the present, but again, it was not noted that it was happening in the present, because we do see some of the characters that are connected to the present in this. We return to one of their hideouts. And last but not least, Romy is now being confronted about everything. And I'm looking forward to issue 10. For the internal art, I gave this a 7.5 out of 10. Now it's time to move into the story race. So first things first, did we get any comic references? No, we didn't. The next is the area of time, to which we learned that some of those past images or flashbacks take place in 1979 and in the area of England. We also have some new characters that are connected to the character of Bats. One is called Stevie, another one is called Victoria. As we start to move back to the characters we have been introduced to at the beginning, we have Billy, Yui, Ronnie, and Raymond. Even though one of them have actually passed away in a previous issue, we do get to see him in a flashback, but it's again not pointed out as a flashback connected to that time and when it takes place. We also have Romy, and last but not least, the character of Laura. So for the overall story rating in this, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day. Comic review. I'm covering Little Monsters by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. And does this cover in any way, shape, or form connect to something that's happening inside with the story? Sure enough, it does, to which I give it an 8. I'll now move to showing inside with what's happening, and we'll get to see a lot of actually what. So I might try to go through as much as possible in relation to the story, and we get to see Yui there and some of the other characters. Finally, we catch up with Romy, and we get to actually see Romy's past in this. And the way this seems to be taking place in this particular issue is that it's sort of like crossing over, say, decades and centuries, sort of like the century to which Romy was born and became a vampire in, as well as who we get to know the rest of the cast of characters, such as Ronnie and Raymond and whoever else we know, Bats, Yui. And we also learn that the vampire he's with didn't want him to be violent against someone who was in fact violent with him. And we also see and learn the event to which Romy is actually no longer able to speak, especially in the beginning of this story. Absolutely incredible. We sort of move forward throughout the centuries, and we start to see other characters who we are familiar with and how they have become vampires. And we see Romy here in the background, as the others get to know each other more. He's now basically communicating in picture format. And we also get to see some of the other events that these characters have seen. They might not have taken place in them, but they've definitely seen these events come and go. As the story continues, we get to see something that connects to Romy, and that is his pictures, which we actually get to see throughout all of the issues we see in this series. And now he's sort of talking to the head vampire, and he's learning that himself, Romy, might have to become the only surviving vampire and have to basically surrender and let his friends die. So basically him and sort of the vampire that turned him get to live forever. And we can clearly see that he does not agree with the idea. And very interesting to see where this will actually take us. So for the internal art, I gave it an 8 out of 10. Now it's time to move in relation to the story. Did we get any comic references to any of the previous issues? Not really, but let's move on to the next thing, and that is the area of time, to which you could definitely see in the way the pictures were made, the art was done in this, that it was meant to take place over decades and centuries, as to how long these characters have been around and how old Romy actually is, and you get to understand why he's the actual oldest character in this. Moving into the next thing is that of location. Well, if anything, with a lot of the pictures, you could see that Romy has actually been quite across many parts of the world, including the US, London, of whatever else was seen. And moving into the cast of characters, we of course had the head vampire. We got to see the other cast of characters who Romy has met also in his time. And of course, Romy himself being central to this particular issue. For the overall story rating for this, I give it an 8 out of 10. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.